Welcome to WonderKids Learning, where curiosity comes alive.
Hey there, and welcome. I'm so glad you could join me. Today, we're going to go on this incredible, almost magical journey, all the way up into the sky and then right back down again, because we're going to find out the amazing story of rain.
You know that feeling? You're all ready to go play outside, you look up, and you see these giant, fluffy clouds. Have you ever just stopped and wondered, where does all that rain even come from? I mean, how does it get way up there in the first place? Well, guess what? That's exactly what we're going to figure out.
Okay, so our big adventure actually starts with something we see pretty much every day, the sun. This is the very first step, and I kind of like to call it the sun's magic lift. This is where the water's whole amazing journey kicks off.
So here's the deal. First, you've got the big, bright sun shining down, right? Its warm rays start to heat up all the water, in the oceans, lakes, and rivers. And this warmth, it's like it gives the water this special power, this energy. It turns into something called water vapor. And water vapor is basically just water that's become so light that it's actually invisible. And because it's so light, what does it do? It just starts to float up, all the way into the sky.
You've seen this before, for sure. Think about a hot kettle. See that steam puffing out? That's it. That's basically water vapor. It's really just water that's turned into a warm, floating gas.
All right, so we've got all this invisible water vapor floating up into the air. So, what happens next? Well, this leads us to the next chapter of our story, making fluffy clouds. You can think of it like a huge party, a big meetup happening way up high in the sky. So as that warm water vapor gets higher and higher, it's in for a big surprise. The air up there gets really chilly. It's kind of like if you were climbing a super tall mountain. The higher you go, the colder it gets. Brr, for sure.
So what does all that cold air actually do? Well, when the air is warm, all those tiny little water droplets are just kind of floating around, doing their own thing. They're pretty far apart. But the second they hit that chilly air, whoa, they immediately start to huddle together, to get warm and cozy.
And what happens when millions and billions, trillions even, of these little tiny water droplets all bunch up together? They stop being invisible. And for the first time, we can actually see them from way down here on the ground. And what do we call this giant, fluffy group of huddled up water droplets? You guessed it, a cloud. That's really all a cloud is, just a massive group of tiny water droplets hanging out together.
Okay, but a cloud can't just keep collecting more and more water droplets forever, right? I mean, it would get way too packed in there. And this brings us to what might be the most exciting part of the whole journey. What happens when those clouds get too full? It's time for the big squeeze.
A really good way to think about this is to picture a cloud as a giant fluffy sponge, just floating around in the sky. And it just keeps soaking up more and more and more of those little water droplets. And with every single droplet, it gets a little bit fuller and a little bit heavier.
Okay, get ready for this, because this fact is just wow. It's not like just a couple of droplets joined together. No way. It takes about 1 million of those tiny little cloud droplets all bumping into each other and teaming up just to make one single raindrop. Just one. That's how many it takes to get heavy enough to actually fall.
So eventually that big cloud sponge gets so full and so heavy with all these new raindrops that it just can't hold on for one more second. It's at its limit. And then, splash! The cloud has to let go, and all that water comes falling back down to earth as rain.
Now this part of the journey, the water coming back down, is super important. So why is rain so important for the earth? Honestly, the best way to think about it is like the whole planet is getting a big, cool, refreshing drink.
First up, that drink goes to all the plants. The rain gives the flowers, the trees, and all the grass the water they desperately need to grow up tall and strong and get all those beautiful colors. Yep, plants get thirsty too.
And then, all that rainwater, it starts to flow and fill up our rivers and lakes, keeping them nice and full. And that's really important, so we have lots of water for all the fun stuff, like going for a swim or sailing a boat.
And we can't forget about the animals, of course. Every single animal out there, from the little frogs in the pond to the deer in the woods and the birds flying high, they all count on that fresh rainwater to have a drink. And, sometimes even to splash around and play it.
And it's absolutely essential for us too. That very same rainwater is what eventually makes its way to our homes, so we have water to drink, to brush our teeth, and
even for those super fun splashy bath times.
Get this. So this incredible journey that the water goes on, it never actually stops. It just keeps going. Let's take a quick look at the whole trip one more time. You know, there's a special name for it. Scientists call it the amazing water cycle. It's this really cool loop that just happens over and over and over again. So first, the water goes up into the sky. That's called evaporation. Then, all those little droplets get together and form clouds. That's condensation. And finally, the water comes back down as rain. That's called precipitation. So just remember, up, together, and down.
And that, my friends, is the amazing, magical story of how rain happens. It's a journey that's happening right now, this very second, all over our world, connecting the sky, the land, and every single one of us.
So I'll leave you with this little question to think about. The next time you hear that pitter-patter of rain against your window, what part of the water's big adventure are you going to picture in your head? Are you going to think about the sun's magic lift? Or the big sky-high meetup? Or maybe the final big splash?
See you next time, little explorers!